This is probably the most insane chess game I've seen this year. In this game, Hikaru Nakamura, also the current 2023 Bullet Chess champion, plays 6 brilliant moves in a row. And not to mention, this is a 3-minute blitz game. So to play 6 brilliant moves, and not just all over the place, it's 6 brilliant moves in a row. One move by move. The very next move, he played another brilliant move 6 times. Absolutely crazy game. I have nothing else to say. E4, C6, Akaro Khan. And after knight f3, we have something called the Mendeno variation of the two knights with bishop g4. H3, bishop takes, and then e6. So it's very common in the Karo to play e6 after trading off your bishop for the f3 knight. And so you can get this dark squared bishop and resume normal development, while white's queen is on f3. And you notice we have a nice structural central wall for black, so that's another one of the stuff. D3. Now D3 is a common move for white to get this dark squared bishop out and sometimes restrict this other dark squares movement. But the problem is that it blocks in your own light squared bishop, but it is an opening, so I can't really complain about it. Knight f6 and g3. G3, I can't say anything other than it just prepares to develop this bishop and fianchetto and maybe hope for some attacks. After queen b6 and bishop g2, as I said before, we have bishop e7 just preparing to castle, get the knights in the game. Short castles, queen e2, and recaptures. Queen e2 basically opens up this light squared bishop and reinforces this e4 square. Takes, and knight a6. Now, knight a6 is probably an usual inaccuracy because in the Caro-Kann you want to develop your b knight to d7 and your g knight to f6. You don't really want to go to a6, although that is seen, and you want to usually go somewhere like here or maybe reroute it to c5 is very common in this. And so we have e5, knight d5, both knights move to the middle. You notice that we don't take, because if we take, then the pawn recaptures, and it's not good for this light squared bishop. So we move our knight to the middle, and the knight c5. c4, kicking out the knight in the middle, because this knight can prove to be very annoying later in the game. Although what white should have done is develop this knight to the d6 square, but I think after knight d6, rook a8, it could be a bit troublesome, because now this knight is getting pressured, and this bishop will soon trade it off and win a pawn. c4, knight e4, we have a trade of knights, and then knight b4. Knight b4, and then a3, kicking it out. Knight a6 and b4, just expanding on the queen side, looking to gain some more space, counteract this weak dark squared bishop and this bad knight on a6. His rook moves to the middle, c5, and you notice this nice queenside wall here, and after h4, g6. So the thing with h4 is that it wants black to play queen takes e5, but that would be a big blunder because of bishop h7 revealing a discovered attack on the queen. So that's why black played g6. Now there is no discovered attack, and this pawn is hanging, which is why Hikaru reinforces it with bishop b2. Rook d7 prepares to double up the rooks and maybe aim for something down the d file. I think after rook a8, the point was rook d2, forking this queen and bishop. And we have rook a1, which is counted as a miss because you should have attacked on the king side with h5, takes, and now you have some checkmate threats. But it's a bit hard to find, and it's not very natural. You don't really want to allow black to double up here. And after rook a8, this is where the brilliant moves start coming in. This is the greatest 6 brilliant moves in the row I've ever seen. Because Hikaru doesn't sacrifice anything for material. He sacrifices stuff to get some positional advantage, an attack on the king. It's absolutely crazy. The first brilliant move is rook d6. And rook d6 looks like a crazy move because bishop takes, pawn takes. It doesn't look like anything's wrong here. But you notice, because Black is going to move their queen, and they're up in exchange. But you notice this bishop is a monster on this diagonal. We're going to play h5. We're going to attack this king. And this central pawn wall here, this unbreakable pawn structure, is very helpful for white. You can't break it with b6 because we're just going to take, and we're all good. So his opponent doesn't take and instead goes queen c8. And now we have the next brilliant move, h5. h5 prepares to just slaughter the king. If you take and take, it gets really bad. Knight c7 prepares to put this knight on d5, which would be very powerful. But Hikaru does not allow black to get anything what he wants. Instead, he plays hg6. And now after another brilliant move, ripping open the king side even more, hg6 and king g2, another brilliant move. Looks a bit weird because why would you move your king when you're literally about to lose a rook? It's because you want to move your rook to the h file and continue the attack. And after knight d5, he doesn't move his rook to h1, which is what he intended. Instead, he plays queen g4 because if black does nothing, then we're simply going to sacrifice the bishop on g6 and hunt the king to death. So his opponent make sure he can play bishop f8, and now the sacrifice is no longer available for Hikaru because after takes, the rook or the bishop would block, and it would be all over. Which is why Hikaru doesn't care and plays rook h1, continue the attack down the h-file. We're going to bring our queen here and attack down this. And now the brilliant moves, the 6 brilliant moves, have come to an end. And now bishop g7, and it looks like it's over for Hikaru, you know. But it's slightly better for Hikaru because of this rook in the middle and completely interposing in black's territory. This bishop might get ready to get out. But now after rook takes, you can't take back like this because then you're going to lose this bishop. So what is Hikaru going to do? He goes to a1. So if the rook takes, then he can take back like this, and he won't lose a bishop because the rook will simply recapture. And now we have b6, striking at white's powerful central pawn structure. And we have queen h4. And now we see all the point of rook h1. All these are sacrifices and brilliant moves on the king. We're just simply going to hunt this king down. King f8, trying to escape. Queen g5, king g8, just making some random moves. Hikaru only has 1 minute and 30 seconds compared to his opponent's 2 minutes. But Hikaru will somehow clutch a win after his 6 brilliant moves for sure. Bishop d4, takes on c5, bishop takes on c5, queen a6. And now it's mate in 7 because of the brilliant queen takes d8. And after rook takes, bishop f8, king moves. And now nobody is stopping rook h1 to h7, checkmate. Nobody can stop that. It's simply mate. Unfortunately, Hikaru misses that and plays rook d7. And after the rook trades, queen h4 threatens another attack on the king. f5, trying to kick this bishop out. There's en passant, but that's what Hikaru plays because it's obviously, you have to play en passant when it's there. Bishop f6, queen g4. En passant basically aimed to get this king more open, and now we have an attack on this g6 square, which he can't really defend because after knight e7, it's actually simply mate in 9 after bishop e7, removing the guard of this g6 square. You can take with the queen, and it's going to be over. Hikaru doesn't play that and takes on e6 with check. And that's a very logical move because after the king moves, you simply take the rook and you're up 6 points of material and his opponent resigns. This has to be one of the greatest games I've ever witnessed.